Hey guys, what's going on? Got my coffee, got a new bike, ready for a review. It's kind of windy here today, so I tried to find a nice little spot here to hopefully shield you guys from the wind noise. Just got done with like a 5-mile little ride on this bike. This is the Volta single speed from Pure Cycles, and it is a really sweet little bike. And literally it is kind of a little bike. It's pretty compact. Definitely much smaller than you know, a full-size electric bike or just a full-size bike. We have these little 22-inch tires on here, overall length of about 64 inches, so you know, a little bit smaller, and I like that. It makes this bike really nimble, really fun, and just easy to ride. And yeah, it's just kind of fun. So I want to start by talking for a second just a little bit about the company and kind of what this bike is all about, and how you can get this bike. So this right here is, again, the Volta single speed. It does come in an 8-speed version as well, which I will hit up a review on that here later on. But these guys, Pure Cycles, they have a bunch of traditional bikes as well, and they've got dealers pretty much like around the globe. They've got a lot of places where you can actually go into the shops and see these bikes for yourself in person. Now that comes with a caveat, because right now, in all of the dealers that they have around the globe, only about 20 of them have the Voltas in stock right now, because this is a pretty new bike. So, you know, later on in the coming months, there's going to be Voltas in more of the shops around, but even if you have a shop locally, it may not be there right now. So your other option is to, of course, order it online direct to you. And, you know, ordering direct, having a bike shipped to you, it can come with some caveats. It can come with some problems. Sometimes I find that, you know, stuff doesn't fit. It can be difficult to assemble, but honestly, in this case, it was just, this thing is a breeze. It was a breeze to assemble, and I think there's a couple of main reasons why that is. So, first of all, this basket right here, it is literally welded onto the frame. So this thing is not removable. You can see there's another weld point right here, and on the opposite side, 2 more weld points. Handlebars, same thing. The handlebars is all kind of like one piece. You know, so you see this right here, handlebars that come down, they weld right onto the stem here. You know, and they come down, they're kind of like part of this basket setup. So, you know, so the cool part about that is I didn't have to put the handlebars on, I didn't have to assemble the basket. Boom, I got it out of the box, it was already there. Really, the only thing I had to do to get this bike together was throw the pedals on right here, which took like 5 seconds. Put the seat post in, and they've got a cool little proprietary kind of seat post clamp in here, and it's interesting because it kind of sinks like right into the frame here, and it almost disappears. You really can't even see it. It's a really clean look, and the device that holds this the seat post together inside here does a really good job of preventing lateral movement of the seat, even when this thing is not like super tight. So that's a really cool little thing. I like how clean that is. And the other thing that I had to put on was just the front tire here, which again, really easy. Just make sure that I just had to make sure that the disc seated into the caliper, screw the nuts on, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it took, from the time that I got it out of the box, cut off all the packaging, put the stuff together, it took probably 10 minutes. I mean, it's one of the, if not the easiest bike I had to assemble. So that's the good news if you do have to order this thing direct, and there's not like a local dealer for you guys to check this out in person. And the other cool thing about this, and I think it's kind of generous of Pure Cycles, is there's a 30-day return policy with this bike. So like, let's say I ordered this bike, I wasn't able to see it in person, I wasn't sure if it was going to fit me, because again, this only comes in one frame size here. It's a 20-inch frame. But don't let that number fool you here, because that measurement is from the seat post, you know, down here to the cranks. But it is a smaller frame, so you know, maybe this won't fit everybody. But again, let's say that I got this bike and I wanted to check it out. Wasn't sure if it was for me. I have 30 days to return this if I don't like it, and if I do like it and I keep it, these guys also offer a 1-year warranty on the components, and a lifetime warranty on the frame right here and on the forks. So pretty good warranty overall, I think, for this bike. I especially like the 30-day return policy. So yeah, let's dive into this thing real quick and take a look at this bad boy. We'll start back here at the motor. This is kind of a it looks like a Bafang motor, and honestly that's what I thought it was at first, was a little Bafang 250 watt motor, but this is it's a no-name motor, and honestly I'm still working with the company to try to figure out exactly what the name of it is. It feels like a Bafang motor to me, but it feels like it's a little bit less powerful. It doesn't feel quite as torquey. So this is a 250 watt hub motor. And just compared to other 250 watt hub motors that I've tried from Bafang, this one feels like it has a little bit less pep. I mean, that could be because this thing is, again, a single speed, or it could be because I'm a 200-pound rider who is carrying, you know, 25, 30 pounds of camera gear with me everywhere I go. So that could be part of it too. But overall though, this motor runs really, really quietly. So, I mean, I have to really strain to hear this motor in operation. And in conjunction with this belt drive here, I mean, this belt drive is legitimately, it's silent. You just, when I'm pedaling, like, I just can't hear this thing going. And I think for me, that's one of the coolest things about this bike is it's so quiet, it's so stealthy. We've got this internal battery here in the top tube. All the wires are internally routed, and it just makes for a really, really clean, really under the radar, stealthy electric bike. And I mean, I just like how these guys took the time to really color match just about everything. This is a straight up blacked out bike. I mean, look at this. They even took the time to black out not just the spokes, but even the nipples here. I mean, normally these are going to be silver, and these are painted too. They're black, so you know, black spokes, black nipples, black rims, black motor, black frame, you know, black saddle. Everything is just blacked out. The only little splash of color you could say is going to be this bamboo kind of deck, this bottom here for the basket. So yeah. Now the drive system for this, or the cadence, or the sensor here, is going to be a torque sensor, and the torque sensor on this is it's really, really nice. I really like this torque sensor. It's probably one of the most, if not the most accurate and responsive torque sensors that I have tested so far. So basically, whenever I put just the slightest amount of pressure on the cranks here, this motor activates, and it knows that I'm pedaling. I don't have to give it like a full rotation. I mean, honestly, it's like a tenth of rotation, just a little bit, and this thing will activate. And the same thing, as soon as I let off the pedals, stop putting pressure on the cranks, the motor shuts off really quick, and there's just not a delay, which is really, really nice. And it makes the ride feel like the bike is working with me instead of for me, which is kind of the feeling that I get sometimes with cadence sensors. You know, I'll start pedaling, and it takes a minute for the cadence sensors to activate the motor, and then I'll stop pedaling, and it'll just keep going, and it feels like the bike is kind of in control. So this thing it's almost like a symbiotic relationship when I ride this, and it just feels like it harkens back to that fixie culture, which really has a soft spot for me. Obviously, this is not a true fixie because we can back pedal here, and we do have brakes, but it just feels like a fixie, and I like that. Speaking of the brakes, we do have it's a 140 millimeter mechanical disc brake here in the front, and that is a little bit smaller than normal, but this bike only weighs 36 pounds, so you know, we don't need a huge brake setup here to stop this thing because it's a pretty lightweight bike. And then here in the back, you can see on the bottom right here, we've got these kind of old school caliper brakes, and honestly, I'm trying to reposition here, guys, because it's definitely a little bit windy. But the rear caliper brakes, they're not super strong. They don't have a whole lot of stopping power. But the cool thing is that whenever you hit the brakes, you do get regenerative braking. So if you tap on the brakes just a little bit before the calipers will even grip the wheels, or if you hit the front brakes before the calipers will hit the disc brake up there, the motor activates just to try to slow you down a little bit and feed a little bit of juice back into the batteries. Now, again, 250 watt motor, I'm not going to get a whole lot of stopping power out of this regen braking, but it is nice and just kind of gives me like a nice little warm feeling of, okay, I'm saving some of the juice, because this is a small battery. This is a 42 volt, I think it's like a 5.6 amp hour battery. So it's like a total of 243 watt hours, and the battery is up here in the top tube. So definitely a lower than average battery capacity for this bike. But you know, we got this 250 watt motor, and to borrow a term from court here, these little 250 watt motors, they're they're power sippers, you know, just a little bit at a time, you know. It doesn't gulp the juice out of the batteries like some of these more powerful motors with, you know, this ridiculous, you know, 160 newton meters of torque, just these monster motors. So that's the benefit, I think, of having a smaller, more efficient motor. And also another benefit is this thing is just so stealthy. It really blends in pretty well. It's blacked out again, so you just I can't really tell this thing is electric. It's so stealthy. I love it. So back to the batteries. One of the cool things about the batteries being in the top tube up here is, check this out. I'm gonna pick this bike up pretty much right from the middle of the frame, and it's like pretty well balanced, and it's pretty lightweight. So that's great because I live in an apartment where I have stairs, so I have to carry this thing up and down the stairs, and there's no throttle, so I can't use a throttle to help me, you know, kind of boost it up the stairs like I do on some bikes. So I have to actually carry it, and the fact that this thing is so well balanced makes it really easy to carry, and because it's lightweight. So that's a great kind of pro for having these the batteries up here in the top tube. Now, the bad thing about having the batteries up here in the top tube is that they have to be charged while they're on the bike. So, you know, I can't take the batteries out and charge them separately and keep this bike, you know, wherever I want to store it. Basically, they have to be charged together, and that just means it might be more difficult to keep these batteries in a cool, dry location, which of course is optimal for really extending the life of the cells. And yeah, so that may not be a deal breaker for some, but I have a feeling that for some people, the fact that these batteries are not removable, it might be kind of a deal breaker. So I guess we'll just see. But let's see what else. This saddle is actually pretty comfortable here. I feel like it's a little bit in between like an aggressive and relaxed saddle. It's got this faux leather on here, and it actually feels like real leather, but I asked the company and they said it was vegan leather, which I thought was kind of funny. You can see it stapled. Hopefully you can see, you know, it's just stapled up here in the bottom. But yeah, comfortable seat. And let's see, I want to go over to the basket here real quick. Now, I love that this basket is attached to the frame. I think it looks really clean. It just fits the overall vibe of this bike of being simple, not oversized, compact. But there's a couple of things that might cause a problem. I mean, look what's happening right now, right? The basket is attached to the handlebars, not the frame. So whenever I turn the handlebars, this basket is going to turn too. So I'm going to show you guys here later on. I'm going to go to the grocery store here in a minute, and I'm going to grab some liquid libations for later. But just imagine you've got something in the basket, you let go, you park the bike, or I park the bike, and I can imagine that some stuff might fall out, and that's going to be a potential hazard for really any basket that's going to be attached to the handlebars here. So, you know, that is what it is. Also, again, you know, because this is not a removable basket, the dimensions that we have here, which I think is about 6.5, or what was it? I think like 9 inches wide and about 8 inches long, about 6.5 inches deep. You know, these dimensions are set, so I can't change this out or swap it if I want to. And same thing for the handlebars here. These handlebars are stuck on the bike. I can't swap them out. You know, if I want a pair of thinner handlebars for being able to, you know, sneak through traffic or something, or maybe wider handlebars to help compensate for that kind of, you know, not as stable of a bike because it's got a shorter wheelbase, I can't do that. Now, going back to the front of the bike, this might be my favorite thing about this bike, or at least one of them, is this front headlamp here. It's honestly just really nice. It's got 2 separate LEDs. One of them is for throw and one of them is for spill. So basically one of the LEDs here is a spotlight, and it just shines a beam kind of farther out. And then the other one is going to be a wider spill LED to just help give you, you know, a wider angle of light. So, you know, a ball shoots far, and the other one kind of has a spill that shoots wide. And it just allows for this bike to actually have the headlights be used to illuminate my path. I can actually see at night, as opposed to just increasing visibility, which of course this headlamp does as well. We also have a tail light here in the back, and this tail light, when the light system is on, it's a steady on, and then whenever I hit the brakes on this thing, the tail light actually grows brighter, just like a car tail light, which is really cool. I think it's a really good safety feature. I like that a lot. Also here on the brakes, just real quick, this bike does have motor inhibitors as well. So whenever I hit the brakes, it is going to cut power to the motor, which is nice. That's just going to ensure this bike has the shortest possible stopping distance. And again, that's just another safety feature that I always want to see. One thing I appreciate about the location of the bell here is that it's between the handlebar and the brake lever itself. So the housing here is just really clean, and when I put my hands and I'm just naturally gripping the bike, like my finger is naturally on the bell, you know, as opposed to a flick bell that might be on the handlebars. That, you know, not only does it clutter up the handlebars, sometimes it's just, I don't know, it's just not quite as natural to grasp that. So I really like that. The grips here are non-locking, so they can slip around, but they actually feel pretty sticky, pretty sturdy. They're almost like a tacky rubber. I like those. Now, again, like I mentioned, the wires here are all internally routed on this bike. However, the one concern I have about the wires here is, hopefully you guys can see that there's a little bit of wear already on the sheathing of this wire, and I think that when the handlebars are turned too much to one direction, it's kind of eating into the wires here, and you know, that could potentially over time wear all the way through the wire, and it might even make the bike inoperable, which would just be a really, really sad thing. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. And one thing also about this belt system here is it's going to be, not only is it quieter, it's so much cleaner than a chain. I mean, look, I'm gonna rub my hands around this, and then there's no grease on my hands, so that's really cool. However, you will see here that we do have a little bit of dirt buildup already on the back of the bike, and I haven't been going through a whole lot of puddles, maybe just a little bit of standing water, just barely. And it does, obviously, because there's no fenders, it does kick up water and gives me a nice little racing stripe. There are fenders that you can buy from the company that fit on this bike. They're about 75 bucks a piece. So yeah, we can do that. Last thing about this bike, real quick before I dive into the control center, is this color is black, and right now the only color that Pure Cycles offers for the Volta is black. However, in June, according to the company, they are going to offer a white color and a gray color. So that is, I think, really cool to increase just the amount of options that we have for this bike. You know, if I didn't want a darker color that may not be as visible, I could go for the white, increase my visibility at night. You know, that's nice. So let's go to this control center, see if we can get these handlebars to stay. So there's a couple different ways here to activate this bike. One of them is going to be with a key fob, which is actually pretty sweet. So you gotta kind of just wiggle the bike a little bit, grab the handlebars, and that's going to wake it up a little bit. And then once that's done, you can hit the key fob, and you can see a little bit of the screen is blinking. In real life, it's not doing that. There's just the frame rate is different here, looks like, on the camera compared to the screen. But this is an LCD screen here, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of information, but I just want to show you real quick again. Just hit the button, the bike locks and powers down. Hit the button again, the bike turns on. Really sweet. Now, the only thing that, I love this, but when I put it in my pocket, sometimes the bike will shut off while I'm riding. So typically, if I'm using the key fob, I'll throw it in my bag or something, and I'll just do that just so I don't accidentally turn this bike off like in the middle of my ride. And again, now that the bike is on, I'll go ahead and show you the lights here real quick. These are the front lights. Let's see if you can see it on the wall here. Not really. Yeah, got the back light here. Did I just turn it off by accident? I did, I just turned it off. See, it's easy, it's really easy with this key fob to accidentally turn this thing off. So I'm gonna actually set the keys down so I don't turn it off again. Now we got the tail light. Whenever I hit one of the brakes, you can see it grows brighter, which is really sweet. Okay, so on the control center here itself, there's really not a whole lot of information. So when this thing is on, I can touch there's a touch sensitive bar here at the bottom, and if I tap that, it'll toggle through the 4 different pedal assist modes. I don't remember what they are called off the top of my head, but they're not numbered, they're named. So it's B, S, which is like a smart mode, E for economy, and P for the power mode. And that little dot right here at the top of the letter shows that the light is turned on. Now this top bar right here, there's a series of 7 dots, and that's your battery level. So I guess you could say it's a bar battery indicator. 7 bar is actually not going to be too imprecise, but it's not going to be as precise as an actual, you know, percentage value. And then of course we have the speed here at the bottom, which is also in dots. So that's kind of weird to me, because I can just imagine like I don't know, getting pulled over by a police officer or something, and he's like, or she's like, do you know how fast you were going? And I would be like, I was going 5 dots, officer. Like, was I speeding? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just not a really practical way to tell your speed. I don't know. It doesn't really do a whole lot as far as giving you information, but it does look clean. You can kind of see your battery level at a glance. You can see what level of pedal assist you're in. So there is that. The other thing about this control center, or this display, is it's very flat. It's almost perfectly flat, and I feel like no matter what time of day it's at, I'm really always catching glare on this thing, and it just kind of makes it hard to read in the sunlight. Let me see if I can actually roll this thing forward here a little bit into the sun. That's why I parked in the shade. One of the reasons was to hopefully let you guys see that. So this is in the sun now, and I don't know, maybe you guys can see that, maybe not, but it is harder to see in the sun for sure. Just gonna move this back over here real quick. So that is really it for the control center. You know, if you do a long press on this, it's supposed to turn off and on the front headlamp or just the light system, but I don't know, kind of finicky for me. It wasn't really working, and you can see it's not even working now. So the other option that we have to control this bike is through the app. So here's the app right here. So it's relatively simple, relatively straightforward. The bike is already connected right here. You can see if you want to connect the bike, you just tap the connect button at the bottom right. If you want to lock it, you just press the lock button at the bottom, and that will turn off the bike. You can see the display is off. Turn it back on, boom, hit that button, and the bike is back on. You can switch modes here as well. Go back to the B mode. Let's just come on. Oh, there we go. So it's bike, smart, eco, and power mode. Let's just put it back in power. Also, the good news is that with the app, you do have an actually percentage indicator for the battery, so it's much more precise. Now, this bike also has a GPS inside of it, and it will tell you where your bike is at all times, which I think is awesome for anti-theft. It's also really cool, I think, for, like, let's say, you know, I had a kid, and maybe I wanted to let my kid ride this bike, or like lend it to a friend or something, or just have somebody else ride it. I could know where they are at all times, which I guess could be a little creepy, but at the same time, I think that just adds like another layer of safety and kind of security and comfort for loaning this bike out, or again, for letting a younger rider or maybe an experienced rider try this thing out. So that's kind of cool. Let's see what else can we do here. We can go into workout mode, and that's going to show you you know, a little bit of information, really not a whole lot. Honestly, the app here, in my experience, it's been okay. It's a little finicky. Sometimes when the app is activated and synced up, I can't use the key fob to turn on and off the bike. And like sometimes I'll try to connect with this thing, I'll have like a bad cellular signal and it won't connect, but it's trying to connect, and then I can't override it with the key fob. I think there's a little bit of hiccups here with the app, but I would say overall it does work well enough, and especially with the GPS function, it's cool that you can really just open this thing up and see, I can see where the bike is, so I like that. All right, trying to think of what else here to talk about this bike. I mean, gosh, honestly, just it's a fun bike, guys. It's really cool. I've been using this a lot to go to the grocery store back and forth. This is a really good bike, I think, for shorter distances. But you know, look, it's a hardtail. There's no suspension in here. We've got these 22-inch tires, so we're gonna have a higher angle of attack. So even little bumps are gonna feel like bigger bumps because of how small the tires are. They have a low air volume, so there's not gonna have much in the way of shock absorption. It's just, and we've got a smaller battery capacity. It's just, this thing really feels like it is a great bike for shorter distances, but I don't know that I would personally want to ride it like maybe through New York with pothole-ridden streets, or for like a 30-mile trek, especially because it's a single speed. Just not sure it really fits for that paradigm, for that philosophy of use. So real quick, I am going to take this thing to the Nugget. It's a grocery store real quick, and I'm gonna actually wear a chest-mounted harness here just so you guys can see, like, I've taken this thing in quite a few grocery stores for a while now, and because I think it's so small, and because I've actually been putting food and stuff in the basket, like, nobody's hassled me about it. I don't know if it's like against the rules, maybe it's not a good idea, but I'm just telling you that's what I've been doing with this bike. So I'm gonna show you guys again. I'm gonna go to the grocery store real quick. I'm gonna throw some stuff in the basket, and we're gonna do a little experiment to see just how stable this basket really is in real life. So here we go. All right, here we go. It's not too far, just like a couple hundred feet, but I figured I would show you guys this frame mounted, or this kind of chest mounted view, just so you can see a little bit of the ride as well from this angle. Boy, it is windy out today. And this is one of the parts where having this be like a pretty small, nimble bike, it comes in handy. Super easy to tackle something like this. All right, here we go. They do not have the sparkling waters that I want. Sad. Yeah, I need these. Just real quick, I want to show you guys what I'm talking about. If the kickstand is down, the other stuff could fall out, you know? All right.
How's it going?
What's up, man?
Have a good day. Do you want a bag, please?
Yeah, paper would be great.
Do you want that Cokes in the bag?
Yes, please. Yeah, baby. All right, thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Yep. Okay, so we got the bag right here, and as you can see, it doesn't really fit even with this basket. So I'm gonna try to make this thing fit. I have a bungee cord in my bag, and we'll try to make this thing secure. Okay, I think that's kind of secure. We're gonna ride this thing around for a minute. Let's see what happens. Please don't fall. Okay, yeah. I mean, I had to reorganize the bag a little bit, use a bungee, but after that, I mean, it works fine. I can feel the weight and the handlebars when I try to steer, and it's not even that much weight, but it's definitely impacting steering. And again, that just goes back to having the basket attached to the handlebars as opposed to the frame, because it steers with you. It's just more weight that I have to steer. This clip is basically just to show you guys how quiet the motor is, and also I'm gonna stop pedaling here so you can hear just how responsive this torque sensor is. Okay, so I'm going to put this camera back on my chest harness and just film the rest of my ride home. Since I did ride here from home, I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you guys just this bike in action a little bit more, riding through the city, riding over sidewalks, bumps, stoplights, just stuff like that. So here we go. It's honestly just such a beautiful day here. There are a lot of allergies, which is annoying, but overall, it's really pretty. I mean, it's California. It's pretty much always pretty here. And guys, just so you know that taking a bike to the grocery store, grabbing groceries, not having to use a car, like for me, that's one of the biggest reasons I fell in love with electric bikes in the first place. You know, just kind of, it helps me personally lower my carbon emission, help me to kind of think smaller, downsize a little bit. A couple years ago, I sold one of my cars and started riding electric bikes pretty much as possible. And really, like, whenever it's a distance that's less than like 5 or 6 miles, I pretty much always will ride a bike, unless I have to carry something really heavy or, you know, pick up something really big. But like going to the grocery store, stuff like this, getting coffee, if I'm just going out and back for a quick chore, I personally could try to take a bike. It's just, I don't know, like it feels good. It feels good to get outside, and like it's so easy for me to get wrapped up in my work, you know, to get to editing, go from one review to the next, and sometimes it's just nice to, I don't know, be able to take a break and do this. So I don't know, it's kind of cool to share this ride with you guys. And again, just to throw this out there, you know, with this weight here in the front, it's probably like, not a lot, I don't know, 6-7 pounds, maybe a little bit more, maybe 10 pounds. But it really feels pronounced in the handlebars here. When I'm steering, it's just, I can feel the resistance. I'd also be maybe a little bit more concerned about getting a pinch flat just because of the extra weight in the front. You know, just put more pressure on the front tire. I'm not sure if how likely that is, but right now it's just kind of something that's going through my mind as I'm going over these little bumps and stuff right here. And like going over a crosswalk, especially, is where this torque sensor is just fantastic. Like it's so responsive, and as soon as I put pressure on the cranks, like it starts the motor just so quickly. Woo, it's windy. That last little stretch right there, you want to know how fast I was going? 6 dots. I mean, I guess you could calculate that, you know, 7 dots, it's about 14.3% per dot, top speed of 20 miles per hour. So 6 dots would be 624, I don't know, like 84, 85% of top speed. 85% of 20 miles per hour is, I don't know, whatever. I mean, if you're a mathematician, I guess you could figure it out that way, but, or you could just use the app and get a mount right here for the top of the handlebars. So we've got a bit of a downhill section coming up, and right here, like these long descents is where the regen braking, I feel like, really comes in handy, because you can toggle it on and it's just powerful enough to barely slow your descent, just so I don't pick up a bunch of speed while I'm going down. So like right now, I'm holding down the right brake lever just a little bit to activate that, and it's keeping me at a nice steady pace. And it's feeding a little bit of the juice back into the battery, which is nice. A little bit of an incline. Still kind of tough with the single speed here, even with the motor. Go, 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 Johnny, go, go. Okay. I mean, the motor definitely takes a lot of the sweat out of the inclines, but with the single speed, I can still feel it. I can still feel it. I'm not like in super good shape, so I can feel it. And that is why I'm always cautious about crossing sidewalks, whatever, because people just don't look. Oi, a hill. Sweet hammer of Thor. There we go. Starting from a dead stop, again, that torque sensor is so responsive. Just starts the power super quick. Another downhill section, I'm gonna use the regen braking here. Also, if you're wondering, I'm on the wrong side of the road here because there's no sidewalk on the right or bike lane. bumpy. Jeez. Yeah. Like I said, with this bike, I can feel every bump. Hardtail, no suspension. On, you know, these roads aren't that bad, but on roads that were really pothole ridden, I think it would be even bumpier. Maybe a seat post suspension would be in order here. That was nice. Oh my gosh, the bumps. Another thing I wanted to point out here is just if you can see the my grocery bag right here, it's obstructing the view of the headlight. So that might be something to keep in mind for riding at night, or just to know that, you know, that light is going to be blocked for certain cargo, and it's going to lower the overall visibility of the bike, and also it's going to obstruct the path of the beam, so I'm not going to be able to see as well at night if I have cargo like this. All right, guys, that is it for the Pure Cycles Volta single speed review. Again, just real quick in summary, great bike, I think, for shorter distances, going through the city, maybe nicer streets where there's not a lot of potholes. It's still a relatively expensive bike at about $2,000, but it does offer a lot of really cool proprietary components. Like I mentioned, we've got this kind of seat post clamp that just hides right into the frame here, really almost invisible, internally routed wires, everything's blacked out. It's just, it looks clean. It has performed really well for me. The torque sensor is highly accurate. Also, just real quick, we do have this kickstand mounted in the back, so it stays clear of the cranks when I pedal. So I can pull this thing out if it's stored in the garage or in a tight space, and I'm not gonna get pedal lock. This is not an adjustable kickstand though, so if I wanted to have this thing lean more or less when the kickstand is deployed, I can't do that. But yeah, fun bike. I hope you guys dug this review. For the full write-up, head over to ElectricBikeReview.com. If you are going out to ride, ride safe and have a great day.